Hey everybody, sorry I couldn't be there today. I'm over at Oakland working on staff development with a couple of the teachers there. Uh, I made this video to try to keep us on task and on track with what we need to get done for our unit. Uh, Given that, looking at what happened yesterday and how far people got and how they were feeling about the material that we covered, the quiz today is going to be a take-home quiz as well as open notes. I don't want people to be stressing out about this being a hard quiz or that they feel like they're in a time crunch because they're not familiar with the material. In addition to that, the first thing that we'll be doing after the warm-ups is going over two problems, one from the worksheet from yesterday and one that I made up on my own. This is to help you understand how we set up those problems and what we do with them. After we're done with that, you have two worksheets based off of the quadrilaterals that we've been talking about. The first one is setting up Venn diagrams to set up a hierarchy for the quadrilaterals, and then going off and checking the different properties of them. Right now, people should be starting the warm-ups and answering the two following questions. What is the transitive property? And how does the transitive property help us with this setup? Given that the measure of angle A equals 4x plus 4, determine the value of x. And then on the left-hand side, we're given a pentagon, and we're told that the exterior angle of A is 20 degrees. So, we need to set that up and tell how the transitive property works for that. For our warm-ups, in problem number 1, we're asked, what is the transitive property? The transitive property is the one that says if we have two equalities, like A equals B and B equals C, if our two equalities have the same value in them, for instance in this one, both equalities have the value B, anytime that happens, we can say that the two things that aren't in common are also equal. So this would translate to A equals C. And this will be true anytime that you have two equalities that share one of the values. And the way that this helps us in part 2 of our warm-ups, we are given that the measure of angle A equals 4x plus 4. So measure angle A equals 4x plus 4. But in the drawing, we're also told that the measure of angle A equals 20 degrees. Now this is where our transitive property is really going to help us every time we set up an algebra problem from the geometry. In our setup here, the measure angle A is the same in both. So that means we can always say that 4x plus 4 equals 20. And we would solve that from there. We subtract 4 from both sides. So we have 4x equals 16, which would mean x equals 4. This warm-up leaves us with a great lead-in to the next part that we're going to work on. The transitive property is what we use to set up all real-world situations. In this given situation, we're told that the regular polygon to the left and the measure of angle A in that polygon is 3x plus 9. Now there are a lot of ways that we can approach this problem. The way that I'm going to approach it is trying to figure out a single value for measure of angle A. That way we can set up the transitive property. So find a numerical value for angle A to set up the transitive property. So there's a lot of ways that we can do this, but the one that comes most naturally for me is saying Okay, I have a formula to be able to figure out the sum of all the interior angles. And that formula is 180 times the number of sides minus 2. Now, this figure is a nonagon, so it has 9 sides. So we plug that into our equation. And that simplifies to be 180 times 7. Switching over to my calculator quick. If we take 180 times 7, we get 1260. So given that, we know that all these angles add up to 1260. But we also know that this is a regular polygon. So that means that all of these angles are equal. So based on that, we know that 1260 equals 9 because there's 9 angles that are all equal to A. So it's 9 times the measure of angle A. So to figure out what A is, we divide 1260 by 9. Switching back to the calculator again quick. We get 140 degrees. And that equals the measure of angle A. Now this is the important part. This is where we can set up our transitive property. We have one equality for the measure of angle A and a second equality for the measure of angle A. Because angle A is in both of these, we can say 3x plus 9 equals 140 degrees. So we write that. 3x plus 9 equals 140 degrees. And we continue solving. So we subtract 9, subtract 9. So 3x equals 131. And divide both sides by 3. And switching back to the calculator one last time. 131 divided by 3. And we get 43 2/3, or 43.666 repeating. And we're done. From here, we're going to take a look at the last problem of the worksheet from yesterday. In number 8, we are given that the measure of an exterior angle in a regular 36gon is the square root of 15x plus 5. And we need to find the value of x. So we're given one exterior angle and a value for it. Let's call that angle angle A. So exterior angle A. And we're told that that measure is 15x, the square root of 15x plus 5. Now, we need to set up our transitive property again. So, we need to figure out some numerical value for the measure of angle A. And again, we're going to use one of the equations that we learned in this chapter. Our exterior angles for every polygon, every regular polygon, an exterior angle is always going to be 360 divided by the number of sides. So, in a 36gon, n equals 36, so we're going to do 360 divided by 36, and that equals 10. And I forgot the square root up there, so let's add that back in. So now, we have our enough information to set up our transitive property. Measure of angle A equals 10 degrees, and measure of angle A equals 15x plus 5. So we take the two parts that aren't angle A, and we set them equal to each other. Once we have that, we need to get rid of the square root and then get the x by itself. To get rid of square roots, we need to square both sides of the equation. So the square root and the square are going to cancel each other. So we have 15x plus 5 on this side, and then we square 10 on the other. So we get 15x plus 5 equals 100. And then subtract 5. So we have 15x equals 95. And then divide both by 15. Back to my calculator. So we do 95 divided by 15, and we get 6 1/3. So x equals 6 1/3. Now, I realize that on your sheet when you did it originally, this is going to be a negative, and the only thing that changes in our problem is this becomes a negative, so our work changes to be 15x minus 5 equals 100, and we'd add 5 to both sides, so we'd have 15x equals 105, and from there this gets much prettier. 6 times 15 is 90, so for this we can just say x equals 7, because if we divide both sides by 15, 105 divided by 15 is going to be 7. This should be the answer that you got on this sheet.